Council at our Finance Committee meeting. Today is December 10, 2021. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate this system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is City Clerk Elissa Tenty, and she reserves the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Practice would be mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. I will call on members by stating their names clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, as this is a committee business meeting, you can sign up to speak at our monthly council meetings. You should also feel free, of course, to get in touch with your ward representative, your alderperson, anytime. Please email Elissa Tenty if you want to speak at a common council meeting. Do that before noon the day of the meeting, or you can submit written comment for the record by the same deadline. The email address is emtinti, T-I-N-T-I, at kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. Clerk Elissa Tenty is the moderator for today's meeting. She has the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance myself, Chair Rennie Scott Childress of Finance, other members of the committee, Tony Davis, Steve Shabbat, Michelle Hirsch, and tonight, taking the place of Don Pollerman, is Patrick O'Reilly. We also have our city clerk, Elissa Tenty. We have Mayor Noble, who will speak to an issue a little bit later in the event here. We have Corporation Councils, Kevin Bryant and Dan Gartenstein, as well as city administrators, Daniel Baker, our comptroller, John Schulteis, the engineer, John Toohey, our comptroller, Kristen Wilson, our grants manager, and I think that does it. If I missed anybody, I apologize. If anybody is here specifically for the issue of 14th of North Front Street, that's not on the issue tonight, on the agenda tonight, just so you know. All right. That said, I believe we can get started with our meeting. Anybody got questions or comments here before we get going? All right. The first thing on our agenda is a transfer in the engineering department. John Schulteis, you're here? No, looks like you're in someplace with a fancy bridge. Oh, is that?
That's the Word Street Bridge.
That's the Word Street Bridge. Oh, they got it fixed. Very good. I didn't realize they were doing that yet. All right, sir. This is a contingency. This regards some fees that we need to pay apparently to the CSX train company. Yes? Tony Davis first.
Chair, I had thought that we had stated that our finance meetings that we would start off with the report from Comptroller John Toohey.
I'm sorry. You are right. Thank you for reminding me. I'm sorry, John Schulteis, if you'll hold on for a minute. So John Toohey, if you will please go over the budget and rather our finance issues, let us know where we stand in terms of income and outgo and so forth. We'd appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Rennie. Sure. So I emailed everyone today the updated report. We are in a little bit of an in-between phase right now. We're still gathering information on 2020 as we wrap up 2020 in the next several months. It's too early to give you an update on 2021. Probably the most pertinent piece of information to go over right now, the sales tax report, which we have 2 payments left to collect for 2020. On a year-to-date basis for 2020, we are $67,000 ahead of where we were last year. And we do project to meet our 2020 budget for sales tax. which is excellent news. There's also the COVID financial update, which at this point, sales tax is the main remaining item. There's a couple payments left, so there is some variance there. I would like to point out that the city has, at this point, met its, or we've actually, at this point, you could say we've eliminated any financial impact from COVID due to the actions the council and the mayor's taken. I reported that last month, and I've updated numbers a little bit for this month. Those numbers that we have final numbers on. So at this point, we're still measuring 2020. We'll have a report to the state in several months where we'll report our internal 2020 numbers and give you final numbers then, and then we're subject to audit. Last year, there weren't too many changes from the internal numbers to the audited numbers, but I'll keep everyone posted. Is there any questions?
Tony Davis?
Yeah.
Tony Davis here. John, can you just confirm the contingency since, some of the items on the agenda today are going to regard to the contingency money being taken out of the contingency funds?
The 2020 contingency is 521,038. I'm just pulling up the 2021. Give me one moment.
And again, so all these things that are going forward that will come out of 2021, or do they come out of 2020?
It's going to depend on what's on the actual committee report, Tony. As we're wrapping up the 2020 year, you will have some items that are going to come out of the 2020 contingency. For anything related to expenses occurring in 2021, it would come out of the 2021 contingency.
Okay.
Right. It's just going to depend on when the expenses were incurred. So as part of the wrap up, when we're finalizing the budget for last year and we're moving monies between accounts just to balance out the accounts, that would be the 2020 contingency. Give me 1 minute on. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I just have to pull up a document. So year to date, we have pulled $10,992 out of the adopted contingency for 2021, and the adopted number was $845,000. So it's $845 minus $10,992 is what we have in 2021 contingency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, John, how much did we spend out of contingency last year?
We started with, we pulled out $549,247 out of contingency. And there probably will be some more coming out of there.
Mm-hmm. But so we spent what, 60% out of contingency then?
Not quite 60, slightly more than 50.
Okay.
More than 50%.
All right. So would you say that that's somewhat average? Do you have, I know you haven't calculated this. I'm just wondering how do we usually do with our contingency fund?
Usually we have a balance remaining. I mean, there's been years where we've almost spent all of it. Right now it's hard to say what we're going to end up with because we have to see what the transfers come in at. Mm-hmm. Last year we started in 2019. We started with 772,000. We finished with 459. 2018 you started with 1,060,000. You ended up with 273. So you spent more there. Mm-hmm. I think the most pertinent thing right now is just to see where the total numbers for 2020 wrap up. As I've been looking at it throughout the last few months. We're kind of on pace for somewhat of a break-even year for 2020, and whether it's a plus or minus is going to depend on the bills that come in from now until we close the books and any receivables that are still out there.
Great. And so, just to reiterate, then for the 2021 budget, we've been fairly conservative in thinking about the money that would be coming into us. And so we're, if things go the way they're looking, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Sure. Well, yeah, the key items, right? For 2021, in terms of state aid, we projected a 20% reduction. That appears that will come to fruition. So we won't have to make any adjustments there. Our sales tax, we're rather conservative with. I think as of right now, based upon our 2020 collections, assuming that trend continues in 2021, our 2021 sales tax budget seems rather conservative, which is a good thing. We were conservative on some of our other financial estimates, parking revenue, which we've seen a significant hit in 2020. We were conservative in our 2021 numbers. So as we stand here today, I think our 2021 numbers, our budgeted numbers, seem very realistic at this point. I think we do have some cushion for some impact from the pandemic.
All right, and then when we get that $1 billion from the federal government from the most recent aid package, we'll be doing real well, right?
We'll be doing fantastic.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Ernie. Hi, John. I know it's really early, but just how are our property tax revenues looking as far as payments coming in?
For 2021, it's really hard to tell.
Really early, okay.
Yeah, it's too early. Our due date is next Tuesday. I can tell you it's fast and furious. They're coming in. We have more people than ever using the city's website. The link on there to pay electronically. That's great. We're busy. For 2020, we really didn't see much of an impact. I think, you have the numbers there. We were off under, I have $110,000 was, what we were off in year-to-year collections for the current taxes. So, we haven't seen a significant impact there.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear everyone's using the electronic format. It's really easy, so I did it myself.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we put that in place a number of years ago, and it was a slow go at first, and over the years it's picked up. But I'm very thankful that we had it in place because it's heavily used this year, and it's really helping out.
Thanks for everything, John.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions or comments here for Comptroller Toohey? Going once, going twice, thrice. John will be around though if something occurs to you later. We can always come back to him. Yep. All right. So we can shift over to our agenda here. The first thing then, John Schulteis, you'll come back. I'll remind everybody of the format we're following. John will speak to the issue, and then after he's spoken, before we discuss, we need to have somebody make a motion in a second. So, of course, any questions, any discussion with John, completely open at this point. All right? Thank you, John. So what's happening with the CSX issue?
Right. Good evening. Thank you, Chairman. We became aware that the city owes some fees to the CSX for a past project. This is a project that goes back to 2014 and 2015 construction. So unfortunately, the city staff who manage this project are no longer here to explain it. However, it just appears to have been an oversight in failure to pay CSX these fees that are in conjunction with the construction of the storm drain project. So the request is for $35,343.16 payable to CSX, and in consultation with the comptroller, he suggested contingency to make this payment.
Steve Shabbat? Oh, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
What period of time was this from, John?
Project was constructed in 2015.
Okay. And it took CSX and paid them? That's surprising.
Well, they've been harassing us for a while, and including some
That's
city. They started with other city staff, before my time, but I guess it took some research in our files to determine whether these were in fact due from the city or whether the city's contractor was supposed to have paid them. But we have determined that they are valid, and the city is obligated to pay these.
Okay, they're not asking for any additional interest or anything on the money due, are they?
No, they have not added
interest. Is this the original amount? Okay.
Right, they have not added interest.
Anything else, Tony Davis?
John, is this going to come out of 2020 or 2021 contingency? John Toohey.
I would suggest it come from 2020 contingency.
Patrick O'Reilly?
Hey, John Toohey, how are you?
Good. How are
John,
you?
good, man. Where did we drop the ball on this? How come there's not like a fail-safe catch to find this kind of thing? I don't know. Why isn't there something that not just the person who was in charge, but isn't there people down the line that should have seen this?
In this case, I don't know that there would be, Patrick. The city, so this project was originally run by the Community Development Office. In terms of the Finance Office, our only involvement was the city passed a bond for a small portion of the project. The original intention was that the city would only pay for a small piece of the project, and that's the only portion that passed through the city. Everything else at the time went through the Community Development Office. So as far as we were concerned up in our office, we passed the bond. We got a voucher for payment. We paid it. We were all set. The Community Development Office, basically administered the project. There were a number of sources of funds for this project, and the project came up short. And that communication really wasn't made upstairs to us as part of that.
What kind of accounting practices can we put into our departments so that this doesn't happen in the future, John?
I think a project like this should have run through my office to begin with. The entire project should have came through my office, considering that there was a number of sources of funds involved. It wasn't just the original intention, Patrick, is that the city had a very small piece of this. We were just contributing the bond to do a relocation of a fire hydrant, right, John, the fire hydrant. That bond goes back, at this point, like 5 years. But it's hard when we don't see the entire puzzle up in our office. But I would prefer that in matters like this, that it would all run through our office. And that's been the practice since. The projects now generally run through our office. This wouldn't run through community development now. In fact, it was running through their cash accounts. That wouldn't happen today.
Why not? What's the difference?
Because we've changed the practices. Right now, community development is running community development projects. This project was really a city project that had a number of funds involved, including community development, including city funds, including Central Hudson funds, including other outside contributors funds. And in my opinion, probably should have just ran through the city.
So you've changed that practice now, John?
We have. Yeah. Typically, this would just be considered a capital project and would be administered through our office.
Do you see this same issue happening anywhere? You know, it's kind of like it's a kind of like a miss. Do you see any kind of projects that are happening now that we might miss again on?
In terms of what, a vendor payment?
Yeah, or overpayment, underpayment, whatever.
John could probably answer that. I mean, not that I'm aware of, Patrick. I mean, this is, I think, a one-off. I think there was some communication between CSX and the prior administration. I don't know where they got with that, but when it was brought to our attention, we requested records from community development. We compared them to our records. We compared vendor payments. We determined that the payment was in fact due to CSX, but it wasn't due to CSX from the city. Okay, so as originally intended, but the work was done for the city, so the money is owed.
Who was it done for if it wasn't done for the city?
It was done for the city, Patrick, but the original intention was that there was a number of funds involved in this project, some of which was from the city, some were from other agencies, but the work was done for city property, and the project manager, it appears, underestimated the total cost and or the total monies coming in to pay for the project.
Okay, thank you, John, very much.
Yep.
All right. Steve Shabbat?
Since it really doesn't look like we have a whole lot of choice here, I will make a motion here.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Tony Davis? Any discussion? I agree. It's a debt that we owe. Got to pay it. So, without objection, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Thumbs up, rather. Unanimous there. Any no's? Any objections? All right. Thank you. Thank you, John. John Schulteis, that is. Appreciate you letting us know. The next item on the agenda is a budget transfer in the comptroller's office. You want to tell us about that one there, John?
Sure. I'm just trying to find my unmute button here. Yeah, Rennie, it's just I'm looking to move some money around within my office. We elected not to bring in we've had a seasonal employee that we've had with us for a number of years. We elected not to bring that person in. It's been a bit of a challenge with COVID, obviously. We're trying to keep everyone safe, keep the people who are there and minimize contact. And we have people working in different locations throughout the building. It's been very busy. But regardless, I'm looking to reallocate some money from seasonal to overtime for my office. We have some audit work we have to get done, so I've moved some money around, but overall it's no financial impact, just reallocating the money within the 2021 budget.
All right. Any questions for John Toohey? Tony Davis?
Motion that we transfer the money.
Unless, Patrick, do you have a question?
Yeah, I got a question. Hey, John, when does I see there's some other items about overtime on here. Overtime is always an interesting thing for me. When I see overtime, is there like a threshold of overtime? I mean, can somebody make 25% of their pay in overtime in the city of Kingston? Does somebody? Or 50% of their pay? Is there a threshold for overtime?
Try to narrow that question down. Are you talking about like CSCA? Are you talking about police and fire? Are we talking about, for my office, for my office, I think the last few years, excluding parking, because they do like snow emergency overtime, we've generally been under $1,000 of overtime in any year for everyone. Generally, if my employees work extra, they're willing to take some comp time. We're extremely shorthanded right now. We're down one employee this year. Right now, we have one out on FMLA leave. We have two employees working from home. The employees in our office are working extremely hard. I think this is kind of an out of the ordinary year, but once again, I think this overall overtime transfer here is pretty minimal. And we're saving money by not bringing the seasonal person in. So, it's really a shift. But in terms of your overall question about overtime, I think that it just depends from department to department. I mean, most of the major departments that earn overtime, whether it's public works or DPW or police or fire, they go off of lists. Police and fire both have manning clauses that produce overtime. Like fire department has to have 10 on every shift. To the extent that they go below 10, it's required by the contract. They have to bring in somebody on overtime, and then they fill that by a list. So, in my office, I don't see where we have really discretional overtime. And I think the predominant overtime throughout the city is contractual overtime. Police and fire are the two largest areas, and most of that's contractual. And when you get to public works, a lot of it's emergency call outs, it's snow removal. It's not a lot of people, collecting overtime for paperwork. I mean, that's not the big push on overtime.
Okay, John, thank you.
Sure. But just, Patrick, just a general question. I mean, anytime that anyone wants to see overtime reports, I can generate them. I can generate them by department. I can generate them by employee level. That's all public information. So, if you're ever interested, just, give me a ring or shoot me a message and I'll get it over to you.
I can testify to that. John did that for me just the other day. So thank you, John. All right. Michelle, did you second the motion there? Okay, great. All right. Any discussion? All right, then. Without objection, a call for the vote. All in favor, thumbs up. Unanimous. Nobody opposed. All right. Next, we're moving to the planning budget amendment. This is a very small amount of money. I think it's $65 being moved around, if I remember correctly. So I don't know that we need any testimony here. Anybody want to make a motion on this one? Steve Shabbat got the motion. Second. Do we have a second? Tony Davis? Any discussion? Without objection, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, thumbs up. Patrick, where are you? You okay with that one, Patrick? All right. Unanimous.
Doing a little research there, sorry.
All right. Great. So the next item on the agenda is the request for overtime pay in the grants unit. Kristen Wilson is here to tell us what's up there. Kristen, you're not even wearing a jacket. It's cold out there.
I know. I noticed everybody had fancy Kingston backgrounds, so I figured I'd put one on myself. This is a request for overtime for Ruth Ann. We are requesting $6,000. $3,000 would come from the engineering department lines in some of their staff and let's see here. Regular pay and medical insurance that was not incurred because they had didn't hire 2 employees immediately on January 1st. So be transferring some of that funding. That would be no impact. And then the request for the other 3,000 is to come from contingency. And the reason we're requesting this is that my office, in our budget that we prepared for you for 2021, we did not, we really stripped our budget and we did not request any overtime. In 2020, I think we had $2,000 in overtime in our budget. But instead of requesting overtime, we requested the project manager position, which was not included in the 2021 budget. And what we're still experiencing the challenges with all of our projects that we're managing. And my office has inherited a number of projects from staff who left in the engineering department, or staff or some of the community development projects, some of the housing projects in the interim until the new director is hired. So we're just having a real hard time keeping up with things. We have put a number of projects on the shelf or sort of on ice, and they're just not moving forward. But we still have to meet some of our funders' guidelines and reporting deadlines. I mean, there's just no way around it. We still have to meet them even if the projects aren't moving forward. And so we respectfully request that some funds be dedicated to Ruth Ann for overtime.
Thank you for that. So any questions or comments directed to Kristen? Tony Davis?
Yeah, hi, Kristen. So is this going to be a recurring theme for 2021, and with overtime, requesting overtime?
Well, we did a little bit of an analysis. If Ruth Ann were to spend 6 hours a week in overtime on maintaining our projects, for 52 weeks, that would equal about $13,000. But we're not requesting $13,000. We don't think she's going to spend 6 hours a week, but she would also be able to use some comp time as well. But we thought 6,000 was a good middle of the road number for 2021. I don't expect that we would come back again in 2021.
All right, thank you.
Steve Shabbat?
Thank you. Kristen, would it be fair to say that using these funds would not put some of our grants in jeopardy? I know there's timelines on some of these grants and projects that if we don't complete them, we could be at risk of losing them or be penalized somehow. Overtime, is that justification for it, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we're experiencing right now, a lot of trying to keep grants moving that are being, that are at risk of being lost. And, in particular, in the last couple of weeks, there's a couple of grants that I've been doing some activities, and I think Ruth Ann's been doing some activities to keep it moving. So we, and then once we do that for projects that my office has inherited, it pushes the other projects that were originally assigned to aside. So I would say yes. And I also, and then I think I mentioned this in my letter, think that for a lot of our existing projects that we have, I think there will be new federal sources of funding. I'm just hearing a lot of it in the news and through some other colleagues at the county that we anticipate that there are being opportunities to apply for more funding for existing projects to reduce the costs. And we're doing an application. I think you all approved the application for the EFC grant for the blowers in the wastewater treatment plant that would reduce the city's cost. And, that'll take a day of my time, which distracts me from other projects. So, it's those sorts of things. And I also should mention, for example, Ruth Ann spent a lot of time with the FEMA grant to recoup costs for emergencies services that the city provided during COVID. Ruth Ann would have to provide the exact number. I think it was to the tune of $150,000 that we applied for. That FEMA would reimburse 75% of those costs. And I got an email the other day that seemed to indicate they're now going to give us 100% of those costs. I hope that's true. We have to double check that. But those are the sorts of things that, Ruth Ann is able to help the city recuperate costs for things like that or other projects.
Patrick O'Reilly.
And you're a salaried employee?
Yeah, I'm salaried, so I don't get overtime.
You just work it, you don't get it.
I try to maintain a little bit more of a work-life balance than I used to, but yeah.
And so grants manager is Ruth Ann's official title?
Yeah, Ruth Ann is grants manager and she's a CSCA, she's a union employee.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments directed at Kristen? All right, Kristen, if you just hold on a second. Do we have a motion to approve this request? Michelle Hirsch, second. Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Yes, Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to say this is not what I would consider normal overtime. Somebody just looking, to, make some extra money here and there. This is for the city's, really for the city's benefit. I think we have a pretty good track record of getting projects done on time. And my fear, should we start getting behind on projects, it could affect our eligibility for future projects. And I think they do consider that, when we apply, if they say we're delinquent on projects, they're going to be, maybe a little more hesitant to grant us. And, we're doing very well. Kristen does a great job, finding us a lot of money. I would hate to see anything stand in the way of this. This is not, a crazy amount of money. And, I do think it's justified.
Great, thank you. Other comments? Any other comments? All right, then, without objection, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Thumbs up, I mean. Anyone opposed? Passes unanimous. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for the work y'all do, too. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm next on the agenda. So.
Well, while you're here, right, so you're going to give us the overview?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your support of my office and of Ruth Ann. Ruth Ann works really hard, so I appreciate that. Ruth Ann she's here, but we also put together a report for you and for the city on our grants activity. I sent it all via email to all of you via email, as well as we put hard copies in a binder that you should have discovered somewhere in City Hall if you have come in here to find it. Let me just pull up an email here where I was. So I just wanted to say we produced this report with our new grants management software, and we're still in the middle of adopting and learning how to use the software. So it was quite a lift to produce it this first time. I don't need to go into all the details, but to get the information from the software into this report, it was quite a lift. But I think now that we've set up that system, it'll be much easier for us to do this on a quarterly basis, or easy. I don't even think we've met our deadline of doing it on every 6 months. We've really wanted to, but it's been challenging to get that. So I just wanted to say that if you have any questions about any of the projects, I think it would actually be best if you email them to me, and then I can get answers from the project managers. But also, if you have any comments about how the report is formatted, we're really open to them because we would like to make it better. And just so you know, some of the things that we've already thought about is that we would add a project photo to each page. We would rotate projects out that are completed. There are a few projects that are really completed that didn't get to the completed list. We would also add a glossary of terms to this. So like construction vocabulary and all the acronyms, and an index of projects by project name. And we would also add CDBG projects. I do not see that happening next quarter, but perhaps in 6 months, just because of all the transitions with CDBG and the work we need to do to get that into our eCivis software is a lot. So, but those are all things that we're already thinking about. But if you have other statistics that you'd like to see about the grants, I would love to hear about them.
Well, already this is far more readable, far more user-friendly than the previous format. So thank you for all the work you've put into making that transition. Tony Davis?
Tony Davis here. And Kristen, I think and the easier, the better. All right. And so if you're giving us all kinds of details and it's bogged down, then it's going to be very hard and time consuming to go through it. And so make it as simple as possible and name the project, what the money that was granted, and maybe, how much has been spent or where it's in its phases. And those are things I think that we can just go to and say, okay, project XYZ, and this is how much the grant was for, and this is, how much we have to put in, and this is where the project is at this time. And we have any more specific questions, we can always reach out to your office or to your office to get any more specific details. But I think the simpler, the better, especially for the common and the members. I can only speak for myself. And, you don't want no thick book that we have to go through, because then you know what happens? It winds up just sitting, I can only speak for myself. It's going to wind up sitting on my desk somewhere because I'm not going to be able to have time to go through each page and word for word. So if it can be simpler and, and even if you can make an index, bang, page 1 talks about this project. So then, if you have a question about that project, where to flip through to that page, you can get your answer. And if there's any more specific questions that we need to have answered, we can reach out to your department.
Okay. I also wanted to mention, so you got a hard copy in a folder, a 3-ring binder, and our intention is that when we produce the new one, we're just going to give it to you with the hole punches, and then you throw out your old one and replace it with the new one.
Ruth Ann, I see you got your hand up there. Welcome.
Thank you. Actually, I just wanted to mention what Kristen just said. We placed 3-ring binders up in your mailbox area for that purpose, so that the current report is in the binder. And then when we produce a new report, we'll provide you with those hard copies that Kristen was just referring to. And it is really convenient just to have that physical book. You can make notes on the pages and, keep track of that and get in touch with us about changes that you'd like to see or questions that you have.
Great. Thank you. Michelle Hurst, did you have a question or comment?
I was just going to say thank you. This is really great. I like the project status updates. I don't necessarily need it printed out. I like to keep everything as digital as possible, not to waste paper, but I appreciate the effort that you guys made to do this for us. Thank you.
I wish I could see it. But again, for some reason, my phone's not allowing me to download this information. So I'll probably have to go into City Hall the next day or so to get the binder.
Yeah, the project status updates are all produced by the different project managers. So that's the kind of the grants management software allows us to get that from them and then produce it all into one report. So, and then they're also edited by, Ruth Ann and both Ruth Ann and I worked on editing the status updates.
Great. Tony Davis?
Just one other question, and if somebody, one of the committee members or council members, if you could see if you could forward this agenda or that piece of legislation, or not legislation, but documentation to me, and just to see if I can receive it that way, and why I still try to figure out why I couldn't get that, download the agenda. I greatly appreciate it.
You mean right now?
Email from last week.
It doesn't have to be right now, but again, I'm just following along what you guys are saying, because again, I don't have the agenda in front of me, and so I'm just going off with really what you're reading here, because I can't see the actual any of the resolutions or whatever or agenda items until you read them, because again, for some reason my phone is not allowing me to download this agenda.
Okay. Well, the report itself, as Michelle pointed out, it's in an email to us that Kristen sent out last week.
I just re-forwarded it too, so.
Okay.
Tony and everybody. Okay.
It's a modern world. All right. Any other questions or comments for our fantastic grants team? All right. Looks like y'all done good. Thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate the work you do, and happy to make it go better.
Hey, thank you.
All right, then. The next item on our agenda is we're going to speak with the mayor here about the transfer of 21 North Front Street to KLDC. Welcome, Mayor Noble. We appreciate you coming out tonight. So can you give us some background here and tell us what's happening and tell us about the process?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Scott Childress, and thank you everyone for the opportunity tonight. And as the chairman said earlier, I'm not asking, and neither is Rennie, to vote on this tonight. Today is really just a kind of an informational, meeting to be able to start a process. As some of you who were on the Common Council back in 2016, some of you were not, and so I just kind of want to go over a process that the city undertook to redevelop our municipal parking garage site at 21 North Front Street. In 2016, we put out a request for proposals to be able to find a partner in the community that we could redevelop this site with a couple of, kind of key development guidelines. One that, we would, continue to provide public parking. And so our RFP stated that the proposal should include at least 200 public parking spaces. At this point in time, we have 140. So the minimum that we wanted to see on the site was a 60 parking spot increase. We wanted to be able to have a building that was multi-use and one that, was provided, both commercial, retail, potential for dining, as well as residential. We wanted a project that would get the sign off of the State Historic Preservation Office. And we wanted a building that would provide kind of green technology and be as, and meet the new New York State building codes that really require, lower energy buildings. And so with all of that back in 2016, we went through that process. As all of you are now fully aware, we found that development partner. We have started and gone through a relatively lengthy planning board process and seeker process related to that project. And now we're at the point in time where this project is, ready to be able to kind of take the next steps. And for the municipality, our next step, I believe, is to be able to transfer this property to a local development corporation. And so this evening, a little earlier this evening, I sent out a draft resolution, which details what exactly, the process would be for us. One of the first parts of this process would be that the city has to, have a public hearing related to the disposal of this property at 21 North Front Street, the municipal parking garage site. That would be scheduled, and then the public given an opportunity to comment on that disposal. The city, under this, under the laws that govern municipal land sales and transfers, allows a local development corporation to receive property from the city without going through a formal bidding process, or which in our case would limit the city of Kingston to only selling this property to the highest bidder. Which in a case where we have so much public interest involved, of wanting to maintain public parking, wanting to have a public park, wanting to have public bathrooms, for the city of Kingston, selling it to the highest bidder isn't always in our best interests. And that's why local development corporations were created to be able to assist city government. I want to just read to you just a section of the not-for-profit law that governs what cities can do with these properties and with public hearings. And so our local development corporation was actually created by the Kingston Common Council back in 1994. And when the Common Council thought of creating an LDC, they knew that LDCs played this important role in helping to, redevelop, and specifically what it says, for purposes that include, lessening the burdens of government and acting in the public interest. And so what that means is that for properties that could be kind of taken out of traditional public ownership and would then meet the need of the public interests, that's one role that LDCs can play. And so one of the things that we also recognized is that, local development corporations each have their own set of policies and procedures that they have to follow. And so while the city of Kingston can choose to transfer properties to an LDC, there is then a whole set of guidelines that those LDCs have to follow. And so the resolution that, I provided as a draft here also kind of goes through some of that and points you to some different local and state laws. But I want to just mention that our goal in transferring this property to the LDC also reflects, our vision for the property. And so we can stipulate, and you'll see in the resolution that it does, that that this property transfer to the LDC is conditioned that there still has to be public parking, there has to be a public park, and there has to be public restrooms. It also notes that during this time when the LDC is going through its process and following all of the guidelines that they have to do in disposal of the property, the city of Kingston has the ability to lease back the property during this interim time period so that we can still continue to collect parking revenue in this time period so that we can still continue to maintain it for the public. And then in the case where the LDC receives this property, it goes to, follow its process in finding the appropriate redevelopment partner. And something, comes up and that project doesn't move forward, that this property would then revert back to the city of Kingston. And so for us as a city, we then have a safety net so that we would be able to provide this property to the LDC, allow them to go through their process and following their acquisition and disposition policy. And still, we as a city would be protected. We'll still be able to use the property for public parking and public purposes until, the time where a development partner is found that meets, the needs of the RFQ that we sent out. And then again, if something, comes up and this project doesn't move forward, we would then get the property back. And so the resolution that I have in front of you kind of lays out all of that. The reason we can't vote on it tonight is that we do have to have a public hearing first. And so we would, again, get that scheduled. You'll see in the draft resolution, we'll have to put in the date on when that resolution was held, public hearing was held. And then there would have to be a vote of the Common Council to transfer the property to the LDC, again, with the kind of whereases that we have in this document. And so that is just a little bit of an overview of what I've provided for you to review. But I'm happy to answer if it's up to the chairman there to how he wants to proceed. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. This is the time to ask some questions. And one I would like to ask, I've got a couple. So this is similar to the process that the county just followed in disposing of the old jail site, right?
Yes, and so the language in this resolution, we adapted from that resolution. So the county created a local development corporation for the Golden Hill redevelopment complex. You've probably heard about the fact that the county is looking to build additional workforce housing units on the site of the former jail. They created a local development corporation. The county appointed members to that, and then the county had a public hearing and is in the process of also, kind of doing the same disposal process. Thankfully, our LDC at the Kingston Local Development Corporation has been around for over 20 years. And so we have a lot more of the policies and procedures in place where the county's LDC now has to create all of those policies and procedures. But I do think that their resolution and how and why and what the benefits are of an LDC was very helpful. And I think it was instrumental in us creating this resolution because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel because we're really just following the best practice that we've seen in other communities, but it's nice to be able to have an actual example happening right in our own community that we can point to.
And what kind of oversight does the KLDC have from the state? So the KLDC is not an independent organization, right? There's some very definite oversight from state authorities.
Yes, and so there are a couple. As basically a public authority, the Kingston Local Development Corporation has both oversight from the state comptroller's office. And so we get audited, we have to do financial audits, and we have to follow all of the state laws that are set out in actually technically not-for-profit law, section 1411. And so there is an entire legal rule book that we have to follow. And then we also have to follow our own policies and procedures, which we have to create, which are all on the Kingston website. And so you can see, if you go to kingston-my.gov/KLDC, you'll see our bylaws, our mission statement, as well as the Common Council resolution that helped to create the KLDC, as well as the charter of the organization. And so all of that is required by law to be posted, and you'll see that. And so, yes, that's thanks for bringing it up. There is lots of oversight for us as an LDC, as well as having board members that are here that are appointed by my office and who serve on the LDC.
And there's a fair amount of experience on the LDC, right? A number of people have been on it for many, many years. They've got experience with these sorts of transactions.
Yes, and so the LDC is made up of business owners, residents, and those who have an interest in the economic development of our community. And so some members have been founding members who were initially appointed by the Common Council back in 1994 and are still serving today. But then there's also new members that have been added over the years. They do serve terms, and again, that all of that in our organizational chart are up on our website. But it's very there is a wide array of knowledge, everything from bankers to real estate agents to folks who work in the trades, and I think demonstrate kind of the breadth of kind of the folks working in economic development in Kingston.
Great. Other questions or comments? Tony Davis?
Mayor, Tony Davis here. Mayor, can you just say that one time I was writing it down, the oversight from New York State Attorneys General, you said?
So the Office of the State Comptroller and their Public Authorities Office, they're the ones that we have to follow. And it's in shorthand, it's called the ABO, the Authorities Budget Office, but it all is under the New York State Comptroller's Office, and so they're the ones that come in and do the audits. The New York State Legislature sets up local development corporations, and so they have to. There's also oversight on that regard. So there's these development corporations are non-profits, and so they're not for profit, and so they have to have a public purpose. And so that's just, again, this is not a private corporation. They were created by the city of Kingston and the state of New York to serve the city of Kingston. The board members don't get paid. It's all volunteer. And they, again, have the mission. The biggest part of what our local development corporation does right now is we provide loans to small businesses, which we did during COVID, as well as traditional small business loans. We've done facade grants to businesses and loans but also what we're more known for is ownership and management of the Kingston Business Park.
So I have one other question, which is, so in essence, the piece of property we're talking about, there's no taxes paid on it because it's a city property. So if everything goes according to your plan here, that parcel will then start paying taxes. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
But in essence, it'll still continue to provide a public service because that's where the parking garage will be for the most part, right?
Yes, and so, in the RFP initially in 2016, we hoped for 200, at least 200 public parking spaces. But as folks have heard, the types of development proposals we've received, I think the current number is that we'll be able to provide 277 public parking spaces. And so, I'm happy to see that we're going to be able to continue to meet that need while also kind of meeting a lot of the other needs in the community.
And the city will still determine the rates for those public spaces, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Good. Well, thank you, sir. The next thing then for us to do, Patrick? Okay. Just waving. The next thing for us to do is to decide a date for the public hearing. And from my look, it seems like given that we have to, have adequate time to announce it and, officially declare it, I'm looking at Monday, February 22nd. Does anybody have an objection to that date, Michelle Hirsch?
I just wondered if we needed to make a motion.
No, not to set a public hearing.
Okay.
So the 22nd would be 12 days from now. Is that enough time? Does that give us the requisite number of days?
We need 10, but Elisa, in terms of putting the public notice in the paper, would we be able to contact the Freeman, get that process started in that time period, just have the 10 days?
I'm looking at the calendar. That's kind of cutting it close. I will definitely get it out tomorrow. If they put it in Friday,
What if we did Tuesday, the 23rd?
I was just going to suggest one more day would be probably better if that works on your end.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
So we're saying weekdays count as part of the 10 days as well, weekends?
Weekends, I don't, do weekend days count in the 10 days?
My understanding is the code just says 10 days.
Because Monday the 15th, is that a holiday as well? President's Day? I'm not sure. You guys are off. I know school's off that. Not sure if that eliminates one day as well.
I don't believe it does. I think it is like just the 10 days. My concern is always when I get it to the Freeman, are they going to put it in the next day or not? So I think the 23rd is reasonable.
All right.
Great. So let's shoot for the 23rd. Then the next choice there is we have two possibilities then for a vote after that. One would be to have a special finance committee meeting before caucus on Monday night, March 1st. Is that what it is?
Yes, March 1st.
March 1st to vote on it then. Or we could wait until the next regularly scheduled finance committee meeting.
Rennie?
Yes.
What time do you want the public hearing on the 23rd?
People good with 6:30, 6 o'clock? What do y'all say?
I would suggest that we do what we've always done and had the meeting at 6:30. And that's when we usually have our committee meetings, correct?
Yep.
I mean, unless anybody else wants to have it earlier.
I'm good with 6:30. Everybody else good with 6:30? Yep. Okay. Gives us a chance to eat supper beforehand. All right. Yes. So this is 6:30, please.
And this public hearing is just going to be on the transfer of part of, what is it?
21 North Front.
21 North Front Street, which is currently the parking lot.
Correct. Yep.
Chairman, I don't want to throw a wrench. I just checked the city calendar and it looks like there's actually a Common Council Community Development meeting at 6:30 on the 23rd.
And Steve is on that meeting.
Actually, you're right. I just scheduled that today.
And I believe the 24th will probably be public safety.
Yep. That would then move us to Thursday, the 25th.
Unless you wanted to do it at 6 o'clock.
On that Tuesday?
On the 23rd or 5:30.
What's on Steve's agenda? Steve's on this committee and runs that committee.
It may be a lengthy meeting. I really don't want to cut the community development meeting short.
So if we did it at 5:30, do we think an hour is long enough? Well, I mean, Steve, you don't have to actually be at the public hearing, or you don't have to stay for the thing.
That's correct. Yeah, it's just a public hearing. He doesn't have to be there. So
I don't have to be. I'd like to be there, and probably everybody on the committee would like to be there, but we have to get this done. So
let's put it at 5:30 that night, and then if it runs past 6:30, you all can move to your meeting. I mean, the other option, of course, would be to put it on the 25th if there's nothing else on the city calendar on the 25th.
I don't currently see anything on the 25th on the city calendar.
I have it down for public safety on the 25th.
That's
public safety. Public safety is usually on a Wednesday, so the 25th is a Thursday. So I don't know why that would be. Public safety is usually on a Wednesday. I could be wrong, Bet.
No, you're correct, Tony. It's Wednesday the 24th.
Yes.
Okay. So there's the choice, 5:30 on Tuesday, the 23rd, or 6:30 on Thursday, the 25th. Michelle?
I would feel more comfortable on the 25th, so I don't have to really, I mean, I'd definitely like to be at the public hearing.
Okay, Michelle?
I'm in favor of the 25th, just so that there's no meetings afterwards, and in case it runs, long.
All right.
Based on the meeting last week.
Good. So everybody clear on that then? Thursday, February 25th at...
Are we just going to go back to 6:30 then, or we're going to go earlier?
Yeah, 6:30.
6:30? Okay.
Thanks for catching that, Mayor.
All right. We got that set. So then the other question is, do we want to have the vote, the committee vote, before caucus on March 1st? That would be my preference, just to go ahead and move this through, but I'm open to discussion.
You didn't really just say that.
What's that? Well, I mean...
Yeah. So, yeah, I would suggest that we have it on the day before the day of caucus as well, and so that we can have a, discussion and then, vote on it if we need to, and then have a discussion and then be ready for the vote either way it goes on Tuesday the 2nd.
Mm-hmm. Other feelings?
I mean, it's only a few days later, and that hopefully, and everybody, all the council is here to listen to the public hearing, and then, if there's any questions, we can have a discussion on the 1st during caucus, and then we can take the vote on the 2nd. I mean, that's my preference, but I'm just one person.
Other folks?
I'm good with that.
You're good with that? All right. Steve, you okay with it? And where's Pat?
Right, you want that at 6:30?
Yes. So we'll do the special Finance Committee meeting 6:30 on Monday, March 1st. And Alyssa, can you let Patrick back into the meeting? It looks like his connection got busted and he can't get back in.
There he is.
All right. Hi, Patrick.
If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to let me know over the next couple of weeks. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good rest of the night.
Too.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Anything else?
Yeah, we've got the Sustainability Coordinator transfer and Fire Department transfer. The Sustainability, where are we at here? Page 21. This is a budget transfer, NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities City Hall Windows and Lights Grant. This is a request for placement on the agenda next expected the Finance and Audit Committee to discuss authorization of a resolution for budget transfer for a grant awarded to the city. A grant was awarded to the City of Kingston by NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities, which is for $100,000 with no local match required. The grant was awarded in 2018, and the request is for a budget transfer in the city clerk's budget for carryover of unspent grant monies in the amount of $23,627. And so I believe the financial impact is $0. Steve Shabbat?
Motion.
Motion? Do we have a second? Michelle Hirsch, thank you. And any discussion? All right, then, without objection, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tony, where are you? All right, well, hopefully Tony didn't get, oh, Tony's thumbs up. Okay, great, thank you. And then the last item on the agenda that I have here is regarding a request for $33,097.08 from contingency to retirement. This is in the fire department. So we want to talk about this. John, too, is there anything we need to know that's out of the ordinary? This is pretty standard operation here.
Yeah, this is the way we plan a budget. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm off mute. The intention is for these retirement accumulation payments to come out of contingency, particularly this early in the year. So yeah, no, this is standard, and I'd recommend that you approve it.
Thank you, sir. Tony David.
Just to clarify, this is 2021 contingency because this firefighter did retire in January.
So the firefighter retired in January. That's one of my question. And so how much is that we're transferring?
That's 33,000 and change.
33,000 and change. All righty. Okay.
And that's pretty standard rate, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a significant amount of time that the firefighters can accrue, particularly for someone who's had a full career. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, this is a pretty standard buyout of time.
Okay. Great. Any questions for John Toohey on this request? All right, then. Do we have a motion to consider it? Steve Shabbat and Michelle is the second. Any discussion? Always proud of our firefighters and appreciate the really hard work, incredible work that they do. So without objection, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor, thumbs up. Anyone opposed? Looks like it's unanimous. All right. Elissa, was there, I think you sent us something that was the thing you sent was the CSX request, right?
Yes, I sent you that, and I sent you the information from the mayor as well, I believe.
Okay, but we've covered everything that's on this printed agenda here. Okay, great. Any questions, comments as we wind down here then? All right. So it feels a little backwards since we had John give us the report on our finances at the beginning. I'm used to that being at the end. So thanks, Tony, for letting me know, reminding me to do that. I appreciate it. Then we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Michelle, seconded by Steve. All in favor? Aye, aye. Great, wonderful. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Remember, we've got a public hearing tomorrow night on the police task force report. That's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to be there. It's very important for us to think this through. A lot of different kinds of potential projects that they have laid out there. So we want to make sure we're clear on everything happening there. Steve Shabbat?
Before you adjourn, Rennie, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I see Dan Baker is here. Is he here for something that didn't happen? Dan?
No, I was just here for 21 North Front in case there are any questions.
Okay, I was wondering if I had missed something. I'm sorry.
No, thank you for checking. I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, then. Steve Shabbat, you had something to say?
Actually, what time is the hearing tomorrow night?
It's at 6:30. Pretty sure it's at 6:30.
I looked on my calendar. I couldn't find it. Couldn't find a time for it. Okay. I'll find it
real quick here.
I'll find it. We don't all have to sit here or stand here.
Did we receive the Zoom information for that public hearing already? For tomorrow? It's at 6:30, but did we receive the information, the link?
I'm sure I did. I got to go back.
No, I'm asking myself. I'm not sure if we did.
Yeah. Andrea forwarded it to you, I believe this morning, but I can send it to everyone again in the morning if it helps.
There's also the one that's on the calendar. Is that for everybody or is that for public use?
That is for public use.
Okay. So we would be attendees, as opposed to participants.
Yes, and Elisa, can you send me that again? Because I just got the one for tomorrow public hearing, but just what I see here is just stating that you're going to be running the show. So
Yep.
if you could send that to me, I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, if you could send that to all of us, I'd appreciate it because I think I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, then. We stand adjourned, 7:56. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for filling in tonight, Patrick. We appreciate it.
Take care.
Don Pollerman's birthday, so wish him good.
Happy birthday, Don.
All right. Good night, all.
All right, thank you.